All right, a little Kid Rock there. Sorry to break up the monotony. And somebody knocking at the door and I needed a cup of coffee. Anyway, I'm going to send that out to Heather. Hope you enjoyed it. She's a Kid Rock nut. So, anyway, back to our dooming of the Thanksgiving day. I got a turkey, by the way. Yeah, I did. I got a turkey. I'm going to baste the fuck out of it. And actually, I've been basting it for 2 days now and getting it all nice and ripe. And I got that flavor injector shit going in it. But I'm not going to sit here and thank you for our founding people and our pilgrim. I'm not going to do that shit. I think, I don't know. I think that I don't know. You know, when we came back, after Squanto came back, his village was fucking gone. He taught white folks how to farm. You know, and the thing is that our education system and our federal government are whitewashing centuries of oppression and murder with a hotkey story of hand-holding. No amount of turkey or cranberry sauce can fix the damage. Native Americans are still living in poverty on some of the most useless, isolated land in the country. This Thanksgiving, instead of giving empty hands and celebrating a bullshit holiday, maybe you should think about how the United States of America committed genocide. Think about that when you're eating your turkey and you're watching your football and you're shopping for a bigger HD fucking TV or not. Maybe you should just enjoy yourself. After all, you earned it. Now, if you want a real version of what happened at Thanksgiving without my touch on it, I will read you something. And this is true. I compiled this from about 15 different places. And I wanted to get you guys to have a true story of it. What exactly it is. The idea of an American Thanksgiving feast is fairly recent fiction. The idyllic partnership of the 17th century European pilgrims and New England Indians share a celebratory meal appears to be less than 120 years old. And it was only after the First World War that a version of such a Puritan-Indian partnership took hold in elementary schools across the American landscape. We can thank the invention of textbooks and their mass purchase by public schools for embedding this Thanksgiving image in our modern minds. It was, of course, a complete, utter invention. A cleverly created slice of cultural propaganda, just another in the long line of inspired nationalistic myths. The first Thanksgiving Day did occur, by the way, in the year of 1637. But it was not like our Thanksgiving today. On that day, the Massachusetts colony governor, John Winthrop, proclaimed such a Thanksgiving to celebrate the safe return of a band of heavily armed hunters, all colonial volunteers. They had just returned from their journey to what is now Mystic, Connecticut, where they massacred 700 Piku Indians. 700 Indians, men, women, and children, all murdered. This day is still remembered today, 373 years later. No, it's not been long forgotten by white people, by European Christians, but it's still fresh on the mind of many Indians. A group calling themselves the United American Indians of New England meet each year at Plymouth Rock on Coles Hill for what they say is a day of mourning. They gather at the feet of a structure of Chief Musiat of the Wampanoag tribe to remember the long-gone Piku. They do not call it Thanksgiving. There is no football game afterwards. How, then, did the modern festive Thanksgiving come to be? It began with the greatest of misunderstandings, a true clash of cultural values and fundamental principles. What are we thankful for if not being here, living on this land, surviving and prospering? But in our thankfulness, we have overlooked something. Look what happened to the original residents who lived in the area of New York we have come to call Brooklyn. A group of them called Country. I can't, I'm sorry. I should have Googled that shit. A group of them called Canarsies obligingly, perhaps even eagerly, accepted various pieces of pretty colored junk from the Dutchman Peter Munit in 1626. These trinkets have long since been estimated to be worth no more than about 60 Dutch guilders at the time, $24 in American money. In exchange, the Canceries gave Peter Munit the island of Manhattan. What did they care? They were living in Brooklyn. They don't give a shit. Of course, all things, especially commercial transactions, need to be viewed in perspective. The nearly 24 tribes of Native Americans living in the New York area in those days had a distinctly non-European concept of territorial rights. They were strangers to the idea of real property. It was common for one tribe to grant permission to another to hunt and fish nearby on a regular basis. Fences, real and imagined, were not a part of their culture. Naturally, it was polite to ask before setting up operations too close to where others lived, but refusal in matters of this sort was considered rude. As a sign of gratitude, small trinkets were usually offered by the tribe seeking temporary admission and cheerfully accepted by those already there. It was clearly understood to be a sort of short-term rental agreement. Sad to say, the unfortunate, I gotta get that damn word, Canarsies, apparently had no idea the Dutch meant to settle in. Worse yet for them, it have been unthinkable that they would also be unwelcome in Manhattan after their deal. One thing we can be sure of, their equivalent of today's buyer remorse brought the Canceries nothing but grief, humiliation, and violence. Many Indians lived on Long Island in those days. Another Dutchman, Adrian Block, was the first European to come upon them in 1619. Block was also eager to introduce European commercialism and the Christian concept of real estate to those unfortunate innocents. Without exception, these Indians, too, came out on the short end of the dealings with the Dutch. The market savvy unleashed by the Europeans upon the Indians constituted the first land use policies in the New World. In the 17th century, it was not urban but rather rural renewal. The result was, of course, the same. People of color with no money to speak of got booted out, and their neighborhood, which was subsequently gentrified and overrun by white people. Not far from Manhattan, one tribe of about 10,000 Indians lived peacefully in a lovely spot on a peninsula directly along the ocean. There they fished an open sea and an inland bay. They hunted across a pristine shoreline, and they were quite happy until they met a man. Guess who that was? Another Dutchman named William Kieft. He was a governor of New Netherland in 1639. These poor bastards were called the Rockaway. Soon after meeting Governor Kieft, they became the very first of New York's homeless. The people of New Netherland had a lot in common with the people of Plymouth Colony. At least it appears so from the way both of these groups of displaced and dissatisfied, Europeans interacted with the local Indians. The Pilgrims in Plymouth had a hard time for the first couple of years. While nature was no friend of theirs, their troubles were mostly their own doing. Poor planning was their downfall. In other words, the Europeans came over here, didn't know what the fuck they were doing and how to survive. These mostly city-dwelling Europeans failed to include among them persons with the skills needed in settling in North America wilderness. Having reached the forests and fields of Massachusetts, they turned out to be pathetic hunters and incompetent butchers. With game everywhere, it was teeming. They went fucking hungry. First, they couldn't catch it and kill it. Then, they couldn't cut it up, prepare it, preserve it, and create a storehouse for those days when fresh supplies would run low. To compensate for their shortage of essential protein, they turned to their European ways and their Christian culture. They instituted a series of religious observances. They cannot hunt or farm well, but they seem skilled at praying. Another time when praying just fucked you. Sorry, that was my own thing. They developed a taste for something both religious and useful. They called it a day of fasting. Without food, it seemed like a good idea. From necessity, that single day became multiple days. As food supplies dwindled, the days of fasting came in bunches. Each of these episodes were eventually and thankfully followed by a meal. Appropriately enough, the Puritans credited God for this good fortune. Okay. They referred to the fact that they were allowed to eat again as a thanksgiving, and they wrote it down. Thus, the first mention of the word Thanksgiving, let there be no mistake here. On that first Thanksgiving, there was no turkey, there was no corn, no cranberry, no stuffing, and no fucking dessert. Those fortunate pilgrims were lucky enough to get a piece of fish and a potato. All things considered, it was a Thanksgiving feast, I guess, because they were fucking starving constantly. Did the pilgrims share their Thanksgiving meal with the local Indians, the Rockaway and the Pequot? No, that never happened. That is, until the inclusion in the Thanksgiving story in 1890. Let the Rockaway be a lesson to us, especially in these troubled economic times. These particular Indians, with a bent for colorful jewelry, had their tribal name altered slightly by the Dutch, who then used it as a reference for all Indian payments. Hence, wampum, contrary to what has been shown in our Western movies, this word wampum and its economic meaning never made it out of New England. Unlike wampum, Thanksgiving Day has indeed spread across the continent. It would serve us well to remember that it wasn't until the victorious colonial militia returned from their slaughter of the Indians that the new Americans began their now time-honored and cherished Thanksgiving Day and feast. So, enjoy your turkey. Enjoy your stuff. Up to you guys. Whatever you want to do. I mean, you know, to put it in a nutshell, we came over here, they took care of us, we fucked them, we killed them, we used them as slaves, and yeah, that's our Thanksgiving. So maybe you can understand whenever you see a PSA announcement occasionally, because I've seen one, where this Indian tribe will not be participating in any kind of Thanksgiving festivities.